to our 10th year induction of the Leominster Football Hall of Fame. At this point, what we're going to do is, we should know that this is the, not only the 10th year that we're doing it, but this year it would be the 125th meeting of Leominster and Fitchburg for Thanksgiving Day. And we know that that's meaningful to a lot of people. We know Leominster football is long in years and hard in traditions, and we wish Leominster High School football team very good success this year. At this time, Coach Gates, we're going to have your team walk in right down through here, right down through the center, and come this way and across the stage, please. Ladies and gentlemen, the Leominster High School Blue Devils. You guys just line up for these on the back wall, that side wall. That would be great. Thank you. A lot of you. Good luck, guys. All right. Mark? Yeah.
Thank you, Gil. Thank you all for coming. For the last several years, we've reserved this part of the program to give out two different awards that are symbolic of the heritage of Leominster football from its very beginning. And these two awards are given to high school senior football players who have demonstrated the criteria that the awards cover. The first award that we're going to give out tonight is called the Ray Comerford Award. And for those of you who don't know who Ray Comerford was, he was a football coach at Leominster High School a long time ago. He was hired by Bernard Doyle. Most of us know that Bernard Doyle gave us a wonderful gift in the field that we are all so proud of down on Priest Street. But the other thing he did around the same time was he hired Leominster's first professional coach. And back in those days, in the 20s, Leominster was having a very difficult time competing with Fitchburg, and people were getting a little tired of it. So he hired Coach Comerford. He took the reins in 1927, and he coached his first Thanksgiving game that year, and he lost 64-0. Still the largest disparity in score of the entire 125-year series. But fortune shone in 1928 when he won 6-0 against Fitchburg up at Crocker Field. And then he won in 1928, 6-3. That's the first time Leominster had won back-to-back since about 1912, and they were on a roll. Then they played a very hard-fought game at Crocker Field in 1930. There were 8,000 fans. It was a big deal, and partly because Doyle Field was opening the next year. So that game, unfortunately, Leominster lost 6-0, but everybody acquitted themselves very well. Well, the story unfortunately has a tragic turn. Just before football season started in 1931, and before he could get a chance to coach on Doyle Field, Coach Comerford was at the South Shore Beach getting a little rest and leisure in, and he heard a young man out in the waves being dragged into the undertow. So he dove into the water to save the young man, and he started swimming back to shore. Unfortunately, he tired and got into trouble himself. Two men that were nearby jumped in to help both of them. One grabbed the little boy, one grabbed the coach. The one that grabbed the young man made it back to shore, and the young man was saved. Unfortunately, the coach was not, and Coach Comerford died trying to help a young boy. So we happen to think that that story and his legacy is important, and that we should recognize it here each year, and we do. The criteria for this award is the recipient of the award will be a young man of character. He will have a giving spirit, always willing to lend a helping hand to teammates in the greater community. He might not be a starter or a highly skilled player that gains notoriety with each passing week of the season. He will be the sort of player that takes his duty on the team seriously, knowing that his function is important to the success of the entire team, even though there are no accolades on Saturday morning. In sum, the recipient of this award will be the type of player that his teammates will remember as the years pass and headlines fade. And let me tell you, since we started this award about 5 or 6 years ago, we have had some really wonderful young men that have won it. This year's recipient is a scout player and special teams player. He does play sometimes in spot duty. He's a great help to his teammates. He provides rides to a lot of them. He's also a participant in the lacrosse program where he does a lot of coaching. He's obviously not the most physically talented player, but he gives his all and has done so from the beginning, and his value to the program is very significant, despite the fact he's not going to be an MVP. But we are very proud to announce this year that the Ray Comerford Award goes to Lucas Taylor. The other award that we give out to a high school senior is called the Lou Little Award, and many of you probably are somewhat acquainted with who Lou Little is. Lou Little was a Leominster native, played on the 1910, he was the captain of the 1910 Leominster High School football team, which was a very successful team. He went on to play college football and professional football, but his notoriety really comes from his coaching. Started out at Georgetown, later on spent a long career coaching at Columbia University. And I can tell you with Mr. Joyce, who many of us remember from high school, was very instrumental in getting a lot of Leominster young men scholarships at Columbia. And Time Magazine once recognized him as the coach of the whole athlete, that he wasn't worried just about winning, he was worried about getting his young men good educations and developing them for later life. One of his claim to fame is he engineered one of the greatest upsets in college football history when his outgunned, outmanned, outskilled Columbia Lions traveled across the country to play mighty Stanford in the Rose Bowl in 1934, when the Rose Bowl was the only college bowl game. And there were pundits suggesting that the Lions were going to lose by 6 or 7 touchdowns, and many at Columbia did not want the team traveling across the country to play in that game for a variety of reasons, not the least of which they didn't think Columbia should be involved in big-time college football. By the way, Michigan, the national champion or unofficial national champion that year, turned down Stanford. And Princeton, who was undefeated, turned down an invitation to that game. Columbia was third choice. Lou Little prevailed upon the dean and others in charge at Columbia, and they traveled across the country by train to play that game. And lo and behold, the Columbia Lions beat Stanford Cardinals 7-0 and made college football history. They say when he came to Leominster for a banquet that there were people lined from Worcester to Leominster on Route 12 welcoming the coach home. They say that there was a cheer when he went to the radio, which of course at that time this was a bigger game than the NFL, and said to the interviewer, "Hello to my friends back in Leominster," were the first words that came out of his mouth. They say you could hear a cheer in January, despite the fact that everybody's doors and windows were closed throughout the center of Leominster. So the following year, he and John Crowley, one of the Four Horsemen from Notre Dame, and a guy named John Heisman, who coached at Georgia, got together and devised a little trophy called the Heisman. And the next year, when John Heisman died, the trophy was renamed, and that's how we know it today. So Lou Little was a significant force in college football and football in general, and we believe taking pride in this heritage here in Leominster is important, not only to us as adults, but to the young people that are here this evening and coming up, that they should know about this. This award, the criteria for this honor are consistent with the values of Lou Little, a man who throughout his career was as concerned for the education and future of young men he coached as the results on the football field. The honoree should combine good character on and off the football field with humble determination. He will be a leader by example, loyal and hardworking. The full utilization of his God-given talents will be more important than the exploits on the field alone. He will embody a feature of football that honors the understated, well-led squad which prevails through teamwork, not because they are better players, but because they are better men. This year's recipient is a great student. It was the first captain named by the team. He's a natural leader according to his coach. He's sort of the team father, if you will. He's a good player. He's a solid player. He's an anchor on the offensive line, and he also plays defense at middle linebacker. He has dedicated himself to the ideals of Leominster football and to his team, and he is a most deserving recipient of this award. This year's Lou Little Award goes to Anthony Tossin.
Well, first, I'd like to thank whoever picked me to get this great honor. Honestly, any of the other seniors, I think, are very deserving of this. If it wasn't for them, I would not be in this spot where I am right now. I want to thank Coach Palazzi, Coach Murph, and Coach Gates for really taking me in and showing me what it's all about. And without them, I don't think I'd be in this position right now. For all those guys right there, I thank them for pushing me every day to get better, get this team better, and just to finish this season strong. Even though it didn't go as well as it did, we're all in it till the end. And I want to thank my family for always being there for me and pushing me to do as well as I can, no matter what it is. So hopefully on Thursday morning we can pull one out, and we'll just see what happens. Thank you.
In addition to that, this trophy here is a perpetual trophy which Anthony's name is on forever, and the one he goes home with is a memento of tonight. You should know that we're still, the Doylefield Foundation is trying to add on to the existing locker room. We've raised and spent $6 million down there so far in 12 years. And when we get that new addition done over the next few years, to the right of the locker room now, as you face it, these trophies and these items representing all Leominster athletic sports will be housed down there. So I just wanted to include that. If you have the notion of the means or the desire to donate any monies towards the Doylefield Foundation, we're online, you can find us. Thank you.
Last spring, I had the pleasure of meeting the new Leominster High School football coach, and he had the inkling that I had some interest in the heritage and history of Leominster football. And we had a nice lunch and discussed some ideas about his coaching philosophy and so forth. And over this football season, I've had the incredible pleasure of addressing those young men almost on a weekly basis. And I got to tell you, their team is getting better each week. They're a testament to never giving up. They're a testament to dogged determination. And I think it's a reflective of their new coach. This is Coach Gates' first season at the helm of Leominster High School. And I've had it's been my honor to be participating with him and his team and sort of giving these young men a little snippet into the heritage of the game and the game in general. And I want to give Coach Gates an opportunity to come up and say a few words to you.
I will be brief. This is not my comfort zone right now, but Mark, thank you very much for your kind words and for your help this year with the football team and coming to the Thursday dinners. It's, I think it's important for the guys to know the jersey that they're wearing, where it's been, who's worn it, why it's important to the community, why it's important to the school, and that it carries more than just the thread and the color. There's a lot more to the jersey than just how it looks. It's been worn by many people. Those numbers have been worn by many great people that have come through the program, and they represent those people. Okay, whether they knew them, whether their family played at the school or not, they're still representing what it means to be a Leominster student athlete, and it's really important. And I want to make sure that they know that. First of all, I also want to thank the community for having us here tonight. It's much appreciated. The guys work hard, and to be recognized is great for them. Also to Anthony and Lucas, congratulations. You guys have earned those awards. But that's indicative of our whole team. They really, we had a tough spot in the middle of our schedule where we lost some games, and these guys really could have hung their heads and called it quits. But that was never part of the conversation. They showed up on Monday, they knew what the plan was for the next opponent, and they got to work. It was always just about getting to work. It was never about the loss. We didn't dwell on those things. We got better. It was a process. We're still in that process, and the guys know that, and we're working hard to get better every week. We want to play to the standard of Leominster football, which we know is high. It always has been, it always will be. So that's our aim, is to get to that standard and hold it. That's about all I have. Everybody, thank you very much. Have a nice night. Congratulations to the inductees tonight, and go Big Blue.
You're the first one, right?
Yeah. All right, Jeff. Who's up?
Jimmy Pimarini's up.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to start with the inductees. First, we're going to induct Frank Clementi, and that will be inducted by his teammate and close friend, Jim Pimarini. Come on up, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm good. Hello. I want to thank the Leominster Football Hall of Fame for hosting nights like tonight. We get to single out and honor and recognize players who have touched our lives, players who have achieved and earned a place in Leominster sports history. As you know, Leominster Football Hall of Fame has inducted many deserving athletes that have distinguished performances both on and off the field. Mark, you could probably name them off the top of your head, but tonight I've got the honor to introduce Frank Clementi as one of the select group of inductees into the Leominster Football Hall of Fame. Frank was nominated for many reasons. I remember Frank was one of the only sophomores in his sophomore year to start in a varsity game. As a junior, he gained over 800 yards rushing. He was a two-way starter. He was selected by Worcester Telegram as Division I first-team All-Star for outstanding play in Central Massachusetts. He was a leading offensive scorer on the LHS 1972 team. As a senior, he was the team's co-captain with Bob Chauvin. He gained over 600 yards while missing 2 games due to injury. He was a two-way starter on offense and defense. He had 6 interceptions spanning his senior and junior years. Again, he led the offense scoring on LHS 1973 team. Again, he was selected by the Worcester Telegram as Division I first-team All-Star for outstanding play in Central Mass 2 years in a row. He was a member of the 1973 Central Western Division I Super Bowl championship. In fact, he scored the first touchdown in Leominster's history in state Super Bowl play with a 36-yard catch and run. He began to set the bar for players for many years to come in LHS Super Bowl success. He represented Leominster High School at the Massachusetts State House to meet the governor to accept a distinguished award on behalf of LHS. I don't remember ever getting invited to do that, but as a result of his play, on and off the field, Frank was recognized by the Prep All-American Football Writers as one of the outstanding players in the country for 1973 and 1974. Frank went on to play football for Division I University of Connecticut with his teammate, co-captain Bob Chauvin, and his career was cut short with injuries sustained while at UConn. Although his statistics are a remarkable achievement and deserving of the Leominster Football Hall of Fame, however, the most compelling reason for his nomination and induction was his sense of team and leadership. As a sophomore, Frank attracted the attention of his coaches and fellow players, not only because of his athletic ability, but as much for his work ethic and his drive. Equally as important, as I know I share with many of his players in his sophomore year, his junior year, and his senior year, was his sense of team and camaraderie. Although Frank was a standout in many of our eyes, he stood with his team to do the work, to lead by example, and to elevate everyone around him. On behalf of the coaches, players who played with Frank, and those who could not be with us tonight, I would like to introduce Frank Clementi as 2019 inductee to the Leominster Football Hall of Fame.
Congratulations, Frank. This is for you.
Thank you, Jim. You've been a good friend for over 40 years, and I'm honored that you introduced me tonight. Jim was a star center in the 1973 team that went on to win the first ever Super Bowl for LHS. He was a ferocious blocker, reliable snapper, and loved by his teammates. Thank you for all those holes you opened up for me. You're one of the main reasons I'm up here tonight. Love you, brother. Thank you to the committee for voting me into the Hall of Fame. It is indeed a great honor, and I'm humbled to be joining many of the LHS greats that I idolized as a kid. Guys like Bobby Mativia, Dave Cody, Phil Carr, and many others. Thank you, Mark Bedanza and Gilly Donatelli, for starting the Football Hall of Fame, and for continuing to keep the spirit alive as we celebrate LHS football and all its rich history. Congratulations to the other inductees tonight. It's an honor to be included with this esteemed group. I honestly would not have had the success I enjoyed, nor would I be inducted tonight if it weren't for so many people, and I would briefly like to recognize them. First, I'd like to thank my teammates for their friendship and camaraderie. It was fun to battle on the field together. I was very lucky to be on some great teams and to have a great offensive line, both my junior and senior year. I'd like to recognize my junior year, the line that I had: Tom Brous, Mike Curley, Paul Turigny, Brian Young, Joe Ashe, Mike Proetti, and Pete Leineck. And in my senior year, Ben Feeney, Fred LeBlanc, Brian Normandin, Jimmy Pemerini, John Fenno, Bob Chauvin, and Charlie Kerouac. Thank you for your selfless work you did to make me look good. Despite time and distance, the bonds of friendship that were formed playing this game have endured and remain a special part of my life. I would like to recognize a couple of dear friends that supported and inspired me to play my best. I'm fortunate they entered my life when they did. Brian Young and the late Paul Donfro. The countless conversations we had and the shared pain we carried from that Thanksgiving Day game will always be cherished memories. Paul used to say, "How lucky are we?" We are lucky indeed, then and now. It is said a good coach can change a game. A great coach can change a life. In my case, a couple of LHS coaches believed in me and gave me a chance. They made a difference in my life. Head coach Leon Huck Hannigan and coach Dave Horgan gave me the opportunity to play running back. Well, with their encouragement, teaching, and tough love, they coached me into the player I became. My late parents were Italian immigrants and never quite understood American football. My dad came to my games and supported me by simply just being there. My mom, on the other hand, never came to any of my games. She said she didn't want to see me get hurt. But she supported me by feeding me and making sure I was well fed, and spent countless hours washing my dirty game jersey and practice jersey. They were both there for me in their own unique way, and they encouraged me to always try my hardest. I will be forever grateful to them. I'd like to also thank my two sisters, my cousins, two of which are here tonight, Michael Clementi and Sandra Vittorioso, my aunts, my uncles, for their support, encouragement, and kindness during that special time of my life. Playing running back for LHS was a dream come true for me, and it was the thrill of a lifetime. While I had many thrills and triumphs, I had my share of low points and challenges. Like my fourth quarter fumble in the Thanksgiving Day game my junior year that hurt our chances of winning. 2, the thrill of catching the winning touchdown pass in the Super Bowl and winning the state championship in my senior year. Without the lows, I would not have appreciated the highs that I remember to this day. Businessman Malcolm Forbes said, "Failure is success if we learn from it." I learned some great life lessons playing for LHS that guided me and helped me in my personal and business life. The value of teamwork, discipline, perseverance, goal setting, handling success and failure, time management, hard work, dealing with disappointment, handling criticism, and how to be a friend and teammate. Leominster High School football. More than just a game. Lifelong lessons, lifelong memories, lifelong friends. I'm humbled, grateful, and honored to be recognized by this award tonight, and I thank you.
Okay. Next up, it's my pleasure to induct player Frank Eccaboni, Jr. Frank Eccaboni, a 1990 graduate of Leominster High School, was a standout defensive end his junior and senior seasons. He contributed greatly to a stellar defense that defeated some of the best state programs, including the Brockton Boxers in 1988. Frank was named to the Sentinel Enterprise, Worcester Telegram and Gazette All-Star teams and was invited to participate in the Shriners game his senior year. His interception in a 43-yard run back was the deciding play in Leominster's 1989 Super Bowl win. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Frank Eccaboni.
Good evening, everybody. First, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for their continuous efforts of recognizing the athletes in our community. By no means is this an easy job, especially in Leominster. Also, I would like to personally congratulate the twins, Jason Jonathan Carr, Craig Martin, Nick Flewitt, Todd Smith, Jack Selly, Carl Pamarini, Frank Clemente, and the 1990 LHS football team for their induction into the class of 2019. As I sat down to prepare for this speech, reflecting on my LHS career and accomplishments made by myself and my teammates under those Friday night lights, I recall a quote that has always stood out to me and applies seamlessly to the way in which we work to become one of the most dominating teams in the state. Your talent determines what you can do. Your motivation determines how you are willing to do. And your attitude, most importantly, determines how well you do it. Talent, motivation, and attitude. Those three words truly epitomize a community that I was lucky enough to be a part of. This community has left me memories to this day that are still vivid in my mind. For example, the moments at Tyke's or Christina's, the songs Running with the Devil, or Another One Bites the Dust, which I changed to Fitchburg Bites the Dust. Our bus being pelted by lemons leaving Marciano Stadium, or the mud in the eye incident, you know who you are. And Leominster's greatest fan of all time, Joey Case, missing the greatest game in the history of Leominster because he got his shoulder dislocated high-fiving one of our players. And that's a true story, Dubs. You know that. But as much as I love all these stories, my one most proudest moment was when I was at Suffolk Downs in East Boston. I was wearing a Leominster Blue Devils shirt, and on that day when I was there, gambling of course, 8 to 10 people approached me and says, "Wow, you play for Leominster football." True story. Wow, you play for Leominster football in East Boston, Suffolk Downs. I was truly honored, and I was truly humbled too. Beyond my teammates, I have to acknowledge I would not be receiving this honor without the consistent support, encouragement, and guidance from a community that truly bleeds blue. This community bleeds blue. including my parents, my aunt and uncle, my grandmother, teachers, coaches, my father-in-law, of course, cousins, and among many others. All of these people have a profound impact on me, on and off the field, and they're the reason why I stand here before you this evening. Last but not least, I'd like to thank some important people who weren't around during my football days, but who I'm sure had to hear the countless story about my glory days. My 4 kids, Anina, Allie, Frankie, and Tino. I love you guys. You guys are my world. Words cannot express, thank you guys, you guys are my world. Words cannot express how grateful I am for all of you. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And of course, best luck to the LHS football team on Turkey Day. Thank you very much.
Over here. For John, yeah. That way you can get it. There we go. Nice job. Nice speaker. Nice job, man. Wow. Who's doing the cards? Huh? Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, you're doing it, right? Yeah.
I think we've had a father and son inducted, maybe, but this is a first. We have never inducted a set of twins. And, but these are 2 very deserving young men. Identical twins and 1990 graduates of Leominster High School. Most could only tell them apart by their jersey numbers. Jason, number 54, and Jonathan, number 55. Jason starred at linebacker his junior and senior season. Jonathan made an equally valuable contribution at offensive guard. As seniors, the Cars never came off the field, playing linebacker, guard, and special teams. Jason and Jonathan were stalwarts on the highly successful 1988 and 1989 LHS football teams and served as captains their senior season. Jason intercepted a Brockton pass to seal a Leominster victory over the Boxers in the legendary Leominster win over the #1 rated team in the nation during October of 1988. No one will ever forget that. Both brothers were named to a variety of all-star teams. It was my pleasure as a spectator to watch both of these young men play. They come from a football family, and later in life I got to know them outside of football, and they're both wonderful gentlemen. Jason is not feeling too well this evening, is not here, so to accept on behalf of Jason is his wife and his brother Jonathan. So I'd ask those 2 folks to come on up.
First of all, I'd like to apologize for the color of my dress for tonight. I clearly wasn't thinking when I was dressing. But just so you know, I do bleed blue. And Jason, as you know, is not feeling well enough to be here tonight to accept his award. So I am here to thank you, the committee, for this great honor. And of all of you, thank you very much.
It is a great honor to be standing in front of you today to accept this award into the LHS Football Hall of Fame. There are a lot of factors that made it possible for me to become the athlete I was while at LHS. My older brother Sean introduced me into weight training at a young age. It was a game changer. I spent many days in our basement training on a small weight set. All we had was a couch, a TV, and concrete floors. We used the couch as the offensive line, and Jason and I were linebackers while Sean was the running back. A lot of blood on the floor those days. We trained whenever and wherever. We never gave up. We built confidence, and this gave us our edge. We didn't fear the older players, we strived to be them. I wasn't the fastest or the biggest athlete. I needed to work. I had a desire to compete and be the best I could be. I needed to have my body prepared for each and every game, but also needed to get my mind into the mental aspect. Although Jason and I enjoyed hiding the blocking sled from Coach Healy from time to time, that was a big mistake. My coaches, they believed in us. Psych Tossi and Ron Maz taught us the game and mental toughness early. I learned the game as I watched Leominster legends like Scott Chester, Mike Valera, the Kerouacs, and the Flanagans. I'm proud of my '88 team that beat Brockton and my '89 team that won the Super Bowl. They were defining times in my high school career. My parents were a big part of who I am today. My father worked hard to make sure we were provided for. He had us working with him in the family business. It was a training in itself. We were training while working without even realizing it. My mom, she had a tough job keeping up with our appetites, making sure we did what we needed in school. Love you, Mom. They kept us on track. As I reflect on this today, I look at all the young athletes and hope you can remember a little of what I'm saying. I hope you realize it takes hard work to be an athlete, and the training is imperative to produce on the field. I hope to instill in young athletes that you need to have your head in the game and keep your mind focused. I look forward to continuing to instill these values in the lives of my children, Maria and Dominic, as they continue this journey as athletes in Leominster. Thank you.
He wants to take a photo. John, please. Go ahead, when you're ready. You got it? I don't know if he's got it. No flash. Oh, there it is. Okay. Where are we? You are. You're correct.
The next inductee could not be here this evening. He lives out of state. He was a standout lineman and 1990 graduate of Leominster High School. Craig Martin played on the 1989 Super Bowl winning team and the 1988 team that upset nationally ranked Brockton. Martin was a captain his senior year, during which he anchored the defensive line as a nose guard and played tackle on offense. A two-year starter, Martin also played on special teams. He earned the Defensive Player of the Year award his senior year. It was named a Worcester Telegram and Gazette All-Star, Sentinel and Enterprise All-Star, Midland League All-Star, and received the Most Valuable Player award from the Joseph R. Mawhinney chapter of the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame. A very accomplished player. I believe his dad might be here, if I'm not mistaken. Would Mr. Martin like to come up and receive his son's award?
Much more than I can say than everybody hasn't said already. Greg never played football until he was a freshman. And he moved right along pretty good with it. If it wasn't for Frank being the cards and the rest of the boys to help him along, get him started, he's done quite well for himself. You know, I can't think of much more to say. I was in the trenches with him, and we had a ball.
Nice, very nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up is a very special candidate to my heart, as he grew up in my neighborhood, and I knew him as a youngster like his sons are sitting here in front of me. And Nick was always an outstanding young man. He had a paper route early, always did side jobs, always was an aspiring athlete. And he hung around with our kids a lot. He was always over the house. And what made Nick extraordinary athlete is, it seems to me that when I get done reading what I'm going to read about high school and college, it may be appropriate to have fireworks in here. We'll see. But in Leominster High School, Nick was the leading rusher sophomore, junior, and senior year. Leading tackler, junior year. Two-time captain, junior and senior year. Senior year MVP offense. Two-time first team Telegram and Gazette. Over 3,200 yards rushing in 3 years. Senior year, over 1,500 yards, 17 TDs. Junior year, 1,000 yards, 9 TDs. Sophomore year, he thinks it was 700 or 800. Not sure of the TDs. I'm certain it was more than one. So then he went on to college to WPI, and Nick started all but one game in 4 years. He did not start the first game as a freshman, but by the time the game was over, he was leading the team in rushing freshman year, sophomore, junior, and senior years. Led the team in rushing TDs all 4 years. Senior year captain. WPI Athletic Award, the Charles McNulty Award, top male freshman athlete, the Leo Jansen Award, top male sophomore athlete, Poly Club Award, top male junior athlete, Varsity Club Award, top male senior athlete. WPI records, second all-time rushing, third all-time scoring. Most rushing attempts in a game, 43 carries in one game against Western Connecticut. Frank, you know what that means. 43 yards, 43 carries in one game, unheard of. Freshman year, running back for the Freedom Football Conference Rookie of the Year, Worcester All Area Football. The accolades go on and on. His football career at Leominster High School and WPI is unmistakable, extraordinary effort, and we commend him from those achievements and being a Leominster athlete. Most importantly, I applaud him for the kind of man he's grown up to be and the father that I know he is, and I'm very, very proud of him. Nick, come on up and say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Donatelli. Those are very kind words. Tough to follow that crew in front of me, but here I go. So I'd like to thank the Leominster Football Hall of Fame and its co-founders, Gil Donatelli and Mark Bodanza, for putting on such a great event. I'm truly honored to be inducted into the LHS Hall of Fame. I'd also like to thank all of my coaches along the way. I was blessed to have a group of coaches who not only gave me a chance to play, but also believed in me and pushed me to be the best player I could be. Some of those coaches, starting in Pop Warner, Coach Flowers, we had Coach Cully, Coach Mazzaferro, Coach Jakes, Coach Young, Coach Krasansky, Coach Healy, Coach Mercier, Coach Dubzinski. Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank my family, who most of them here today, my parents, my sister, my grandmother, who were always there and always there to support me in LHS football. It meant a lot. This is a huge honor for me, and I'm humbled to be alongside of alongside of inductees of the class of 2019. As a kid growing up in Leominster, the names of Clemente, Icaboni, Martin, Smith, the Carr brothers were legendary. These were guys that myself and my teammates looked up to and aspired to be. That's the truth. I'd also like to thank and acknowledge all of the players that I took the field with. Football is a team sport, and I was given the opportunity to play with some outstanding individuals and some great teams. I had an incredible offensive line, which always helped. I always say I wish I could have taken those guys to college because I might have tacked on a couple more yards. But really, I was blessed to play with a lot of good athletes along the way. Two of them are here tonight. Jeff O'Neill, who had a great career at Williams, and Jay Smith had a great career at Fitchburg State. Those are two outstanding guys. And thank you for being here. My first LHS football experience was the Leominster-Brockton game in '88. Not a bad event to attend. I was there with my father, and I could not believe what I was seeing. I was 10 years old, and I was instantly hooked on the game of football, and most importantly, LHS football. All I wanted to do was one day wear that uniform and play under the lights on Friday night at Doyle Field. That dream came true for me, and I was lucky enough to wear that blue and white uniform, and I wore it proudly. I can honestly say that every time I stepped on the practice field or game field, I gave it 100%. I always left it on the field, and I have no regrets. I loved everything from captain's practices to double sessions to football camp at Carnegie Mellon. Sorry, Coach Dubs, we got you in a pickle there a couple times. I loved the banquets, I loved the rallies, I loved the post-game celebrations. It was all great, and I'll remember that forever. The pride and excitement that I experienced while playing LHS football is something that I will always remember and cherish. I had 4 great years in college, but I can honestly say it didn't compare to the 4 years at LHS. Leominster football was instrumental in helping me get into a lot of great colleges, and I'm truly grateful for that. In closing, I would like to thank my beautiful wife, Sheila, and my 2 boys, Cole and Luke, for putting up and listening to my Harry High School stories. So, once again, thanks again to Gil Donatelli, Mark Bodanza, and the rest of the Hall of Fame committee for this tremendous honor. I am grateful and thank you.
Jimmy, way to go, Jim. Yeah, that's right there. Okay, you got it. We're good. You're good to go, brother. Thank you. You're welcome. Mark, who's up? Todd Smith. Okay, all right, fine. Okay, folks, we're almost done, just a few more here. Next up is going to be an outstanding football player at Leominster High School. This individual came up at one of our meetings from the coaches. It was either Coach Dubzinski or Coach Mercier who were insistent on Todd Smith. Most of you who know when he played football, it was man against boys. He was a very athletic and very large guy, and he absolutely dominated at lineman. Todd graduated from Leominster High School in 1994. He was a 3-year varsity football player. Not many people can say they started for 3 years. It's an unusual honor. Smith served as his team captain for both his junior and senior year playing seasons. A talented and versatile lineman, he played center, guard, tackle, and special teams. He earned the MVP Lineman Award his senior year and was named the Worcester Telegram and Gazette All-Star, Fitchburg and Leominster All-Star, and received a Most Valuable Player Award in the Joseph R. McWhinney chapter of the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have up next is Todd Smith. Please give him a round of applause. You're going to do it now, Todd.
Thank you, thank you. So a couple weeks ago, I talked to one of the Carr brothers and told me that nobody's writing speeches, so I didn't write one either. First, I'd like to thank my mother because she told me that if I didn't, I was going to get the wooden spoon tonight. I'd also like to thank my wife, Christina, who's been my biggest cheerleader since high school. And I'd like to honor my father for teaching me to be the man that I am today. I hope to instill the same values in my kids, Riley and Connor, that my parents did in me, and also what football helped teach me. Seems to be a common theme that sports in general teach kids many things, teach people many things. All these values stick with you and throughout your life, and I think that I use a lot of those values in even in my job today. I'd like to thank Coach Dubzinski, Coach Healy, and Coach Mercia. Thank you guys for putting my name out there. I never thought that I would be inducted into this Hall of Fame. I'd like to thank the members of the committee for the Hall of Fame for putting me into this. And it's definitely an honor to be inducted into this Hall of Fame tonight, especially with this amazing group of guys that were inducted tonight and the whole team of 89. Thank you very much.
Nice job speaking as well. There you go. Who wants to take a photo? That guy in the middle, yeah, he's got it, and she's got it too. Let's go, Bob. Thanks, buddy. You're doing contributors.
Yeah, let's have Pat LaPointe come up. Could Pat LaPointe please come up? He's going to do, I'm going to do it. Yeah, he's going to do it. I'm going to sign it.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. You called an audible.
Called it audible. Thanks.
You just didn't know.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the warning. I just want to mention, before everybody leaves tonight, you might want to catch Bobby Saro's sit-down comedy act over in the corner. He's been entertaining us now for 2 hours. Thank you, Bobby. I just want to offer my congratulations to all the inductees and all the award winners. I was just thinking out loud to myself that I know a lot of these kids tonight, and I remember them growing up, and I've got stories and relationships with a lot of these people, and I'm very proud of them. Never been so proud of a group of inductees since I've been on this committee. But I'm looking at Nikki Fluitt, Todd Smith, Frankie, and Frankie's not here, but thank you for keeping the cheeseburger with sauce alive, Frank. I'm here to talk about Matt Hool, and that's probably all I should say, because Matt Hool, everybody knows him. Everybody knows what he does for Leominster High School sports. He donates countless hours to the athletes of Leominster High School. He was first involved as a team manager for the basketball team way back in 1997. He later became involved with the football team as equipment manager in 2001 and stayed there after graduating from high school. He did take off 5 years to serve in the Navy, but he came right back to Leominster sports. He bought water bottles and tables to provide hydration to our high school athletic sports teams. Those included football, baseball, ice hockey, basketball, field hockey, lacrosse, and girls softball. And he still does that to this day. He works with no help from the city, and he counts on donations, so remember that, donations for purchasing cups, coolers, and water bottles. He sometimes spends up to 11 hours during the football tryout season. That's in a couple of weeks late in August. 11 hours a day working, keeping the kids hydrated. He sometimes uses, he tells me, this is what he told me, 30 to 45 gallons of water a day. He also travels to every home game for every sport that he can. Matt was awarded a certificate from MIAA as a member of the 2012 and 2013 Central Mass Division I sectional champs in football with Leominster. He's tremendously proud of that honor. I had to cull all this information from a little room he has at the Doyle Field locker room, and he wouldn't tell us anything. And that's the kind of kid he is. He would not come tonight. He told me flat out, I announced it to him, Mark gave me the honor of announcing it to him. He says, I don't deserve it. That's what he told me. I says, Matt, you deserve it. He's a humble kid, and I know deep down inside, he's very, very happy to be honored by this award, and I'm very happy to accept it on his behalf. Thank you. I would be happy, absolutely happy. Nice job. Thank you. For Matt Hull. Matt Hull.
We have two more inductees in the contributor category, and that will round out the individuals until we get to the 1989 team after that. These two individuals I have known for a very long time. In fact, they were my classmates at Leominster High School. And I can tell you from personal experience that they started their craft very early in life and collaborated on filming a number of their classmates in a variety of sometimes embarrassing situations. And they have all the film still. But they turned their attention, and these two individuals are pretty talented young men, really from the get-go. And more than that, great classmates, great friends, and had the ultimate pleasure of playing football with Jack Selly. And I'm proud to announce that he scored a point in Leominster's first Super Bowl win back in 1973, successfully converting a point after. We had a lot of good fun out on the gridiron back in those days, and I'll never forget it. But in 1978, shortly after they graduated from Leominster High School in 1974, Jack Selly and Carl Pimarini went and did a documentary on the Thanksgiving game called A November Day. That November Day. I knew I was going to screw that up. And they picked a good game because Leominster preserved an undefeated season with a tiebreaker field goal kick after regulation. And it was a bitter cold day, and it was a fascinating expose on the teams themselves, the coaches, the game itself, the fans, all of it. And they did a really wonderful job with it. And 5 years later, they followed that up with a documentary, which is still the seminal resource for the Leominster-Fitchburg football rivalry, and that was called simply The Rivalry. And that was a feature-length documentary, and it preserved, and some of you may have seen it playing earlier this evening. Not only did it capture the essence of the rivalry as we have all experienced it, but more importantly, they captured interviews with people who are no longer with us. And they preserved a lot of testimony about this important football tradition that would have been lost forever. And I learned from them, and they are certainly amazing historians in what they do. Of course, they have gone on as a vital part of our community in Leominster Access TV, where Carl is the executive director, and Jack is the preservation specialist, still finding films of old Leominster events, including football, and preserving them, enhancing them, sharing them with the public, and it's a tremendous resource that we have in our community. They cover municipal meetings, they cover special events, and since 2000, they have had a second-to-none broadcast of our local football games, anchored by Todd Robbins and his wife, Katie, and have done a tremendous job, and it's really, if anybody's seen it, they know it's first-rate production. Everything they do at our local access TV station makes us all as a community proud. And I'm honored to be their friend. I'm honored to be in touch with them all these years and have their wonderful assistance in a lot of my projects. They're amazing people, and it gives me great honor to call up Jack Selly and Kyle Pimerini with a Contributors Award for incredible contribution to Leominster football.
Oh, I get one too? You get one too? Yeah. Thank you. Why don't you talk?
Check it out. You can go first.
We're in trouble now. Pimerini has a microphone. All right. First of all, I want to thank the Hall of Fame committee. You guys do an unbelievable job, and it's really an esteemed honor to accept this. Looking over this crowd here tonight, I see many athletes here, talented people, and I never in a million years, I think to myself, what am I doing here? Because I was never athletic. I really wasn't. Came from a family of musicians, and but I did play. I was on Doyle Field. I was a linebacker. I was in the back line playing tuba in the Leominster High School marching band. Yeah.
Bravo!
So I actually got a lot of field time because a lot more than you guys, some of you guys did. But anyway, I want to thank you all. And in 1983, when we produced the rivalry, I was part of a wonderful team. Jack and I teamed up. We had a lot of help from Ed Zephyr and Sal Ciccone, Greg Cucci, David Lettis, to name a few. A lot of help from Gillen. So the rivalry was an interesting project, and I'll let Jack fill you in on some of the trials and tribulations we had in doing that.
Thanks, Kyle. I want to thank Mark, and I want to thank Gilly and the Hall of Fame committee. I'm humbled. I thought I was going to get inducted for my 1 point in the Super Bowl, but this trumps that. I just want to continue where Kyle left off with thanking people who were involved, because in football, how a team leads to success. You work together. It was a huge team effort for the rivalry on that November day. And I just want to mention some names. Kyle, Peter Layton, our teacher, Pamela Richardson, Kathy Gates, Lisa Richard, Bob Brown, and Greg Cucci. And on the rivalry, we had Ed Zephyr, John Crawley, Sal Ciccone, David Lettis, Mike Emmer. If anybody looks inside the program, there was a little insert that was put in there in the cover of that program for the rivalry. Those came from 1983, by the way. Michael Emmer did the artwork, Gil Donatelli. My father, who actually was a roadie for us, and I want to thank my wife, who for 36 years hasn't forgiven me for forgetting to say thank you to her when we actually premiered the rivalry. Anyway, I don't really know what to say, but one thing, more than one, but one thing stuck in my head when Frank Clementi mentioned Paul Donfro, and his saying was, "How lucky are we?" And I can't help but thinking how lucky we are
with all you inductees. I mean, you talk about Ronnie Cahill's, you talk about the Kerouacs. I actually have a chance every day at work when I'm restoring these films to see some of these legends. I'll get somebody bring me a film that they found in their attic, after someone passed away, and it's like, oh man, look at this thing. I wonder what's on it. There's no year, and I look at it, and it's a film from 1930, and I get to see Coach Clarence Amiot from Fitchburg that in our film, Larry Hobbs, who played in 1920, talked about, and I actually see him. How lucky am I? How lucky are we? I don't know if I could convey this feeling that I get when I see these people who are long gone, when I can, watch some of the interviews we did 36 years ago and still hear their stories when they played football for Leominster High School, when they played in the Leominster-Fitchburg game. Larry Hobbs, 1920. One more story. Joe Tulin, okay, when we were doing this film, he was in his mid-80s. Okay, so he would be, 130 today? Who the hell knows? Anyway, he had had a heart attack, and we were filming every night in the month of November in '83. And this was real close to Thanksgiving, and it was a miserable night. It was snowing, it was sleeting, and he just got released from the hospital. He drove himself to his interview, and he was so excited, and he did not want to miss it because the rivalry meant so much to him. Playing for Leominster High School meant so much to him. And he was getting excited, and he'd hold his chest, and he'd pop nitro pills. Seriously. He drove himself to that interview in the snow after having a heart attack that week. He had just got released. So that's what this thing means, okay? How lucky are we? How lucky am I? Thank you.
Everybody take a photo. Come over here, come to the middle. So, come in a little bit. Can you stand it out? He's taking a photo. Stand it out. Nice. All right. Good. Which one is it? Okay, let's take care of a little housekeeping here and do a lottery. How much is it? 880? Huh?
Do you believe in coincidence? Last year we did a 50-50 at the banquet, and the total was 880. This year we did a 50-50 at the banquet, and the total is 880. So we have $440 up for grabs as a prize. I'm going to need some young person, maybe one of you young men, to come over here and reach down in here.
Go.
And pick your ticket. All right. Thank you, sir. And the winning ticket is 561375. We have a winner. Go on to get your prize. There you go.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Nice job. Okay.
Okay, last thing up, guys, we're gonna do the 1989 team. I'm gonna call your names one by one. We're gonna give you a plaque. And please assemble over there before you take off, because there's gonna be one of pictures you wanna get. So don't take off.
You want to circle right around the front of the stage, I think.
Okay, first up. I don't know how many of you are here this evening, but we'll keep those plaques in good keeping. Okay, first up, is there Okay, if you are representing someone else who could not make it, tell us and we'll give you this as well. Up first, Mike Monterio. Ken Thompson. Mark Matthews. Mark Werman. Ben Miola. Jim Katanas. Josh Gagnon. Tony Spinelli. Ryan Young. Rick Elaine. Pete Tater. Don Chabin. Juan Medina. Matt Hughes. Mike Wallace. Paul Bergeron. Jay Tater. Mike Batone. Jay Valera. Chris Gullickson. Steve Quinn. Joe Favreau. Dana Valentine. Jamie Cristoforo. Peter Falk. Eric Herndon. Mark Dion. Sean Anderson. Tony Pimarini. Ken Bergeron. Dan Bilodeau. Paul Sabatelli. Jason Carr. John Carr. Frank Eccaboni. Grant Thomas. Andy Kelly. Doug Mobley. Scott Muth. Chris Laslaki. Rich Loisel. Craig Martin. Ron Levesque. Chris Candiello. Mike Salafia. Don Salafia. Jeremy Bray. Brian Fitzgerald. Willie Bates. Dave Gendron. Dave Orsini. Lastly, Nick Carboni. That's the crew. That's all of them. Give them a hand. 1989 Super Bowl winners. Standing ovation for this crew. There you go. Any photo opportunity that anybody wants to take, now's the time. Any coaches associated with this team? Coach Healy, would you like to, the team is requesting that you come up and get in the photo with them. Coach Dobzinski, Coach Healy, Coach Mercier, your team is calling for you. How you want to do it? Okay, if half of you can come up on stage and the other half stand in front, Vinny can take a photo with everybody in it. So why don't half of you guys come up and spread across from about here to, yeah, you can have to. Good, right there.
You get a short guys up here.
Can we get some more guys up on stage? Yeah, the big guys, the tall guys, get up.
I belong right in the front of the
Ladies,
microphone.
that work? Frankie out here, come on.
Good center. You get that red shirt on? You want to get it this way? Right in front of the.
I'm in the red. It's like it's something. You get the red tie, right? Okay. All right. I don't think I should get here.
on behalf of the Leominster Football Hall of Fame Committee, which includes Coach Kobzinski, Coach Mercier, Pat LaPointe, Coach Novak,
I thought you were going to have shorts on tonight.
who are in, Pat LaPointe, who are in the building tonight. Thank you for your assistance in picking these inductees. Mark and I would like to thank Adele and Mikey for putting up with this nonsense that we go through for 3 months getting ready for this show. It's like putting it on the wedding every year. Thank you, everybody. That concludes tonight's show. Thank you very much for coming.